This episode of the Justin Robert Young podcast is brought to you, as always, by the fine folks who support us on Patreon, patreon.com/JuRY. That's where you can support this show and the Politics program. 2 podcast award-winning podcasts. Oh, my God. So much more on that in this episode. Support things like keyframes of me drinking wine and... what else can I say, man? You guys are amazing. Everybody's amazing. I love all of your beautiful faces. Patreon.com/JuRY. And by The Contender, the game of presidential debate, we were killing it this weekend in Los Angeles at Politicon, having a great time. Thank you to everybody who came out. Otherwise, now's the time to get the game of the summer. Thecontender.us is where you get it. Buy our deck, buy our expansions. And if you use offer code DIAMOND, that is less than greater than the brackets, I will sign anything that you buy. So please go ahead and do that there. Thecontender.us. See what the world is talking about. And finally, you want some Diamond Club stickers? Come on and get them. Stickers are DIAF.com. $5 sticker packs should be changing soon. So if you like any of the stickers that are in this current pack, then you better get them now. Stickers or DIAF. But enough about talking about the show. What do you say we just go ahead and do the damn thing?
Said, I know it's ugly, and I said, girl, ugly ain't the half, look at you. Well, you got blue teeth, and you only got 2 teeth, but I kinda like to see you smile. And it appears that over the years you've turned into a big old steaming pile. And she said, yeah, I know I ain't no supermodel. I said, you ain't a hand model, baby. But that's fine, 'cause you're pretty ugly by most people's standards, but you're alright by mine.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, this is the Justin Robert Young podcast. My name is Justin Robert Young. Oh, dude, man. Geez. You know, men far wiser than me when discussing forms of all entertainment realize that there are 2 twin pillars for which so much entertainment is derived from, and that is tragedy and comedy. And we experienced so much of that over the weekend. All right, this is going to be a big, rambly, long monologue version of JuRY. I will do a separate mailbag episode later this week. I'm going to make up for the fact that we didn't have an episode on Sunday if my life depends on it. But this is just going to be a little bit of a storytelling moment for me, Justin Robert Young. I mentioned at the beginning of this podcast that we are indeed a podcast award-winning podcast. This is last year's that we got for Night Attack. Night Attack was not eligible this year for the podcast award, so we put in both JuRY and we put in politics. Both of them came out on top, but not without controversy. Because you might think, a popular voted podcast awards, right? That's a comedy. It's a fun thing. It's a celebration of joy. And yet, it erupted in tragedy. I don't... We're going to talk about this, I'm sure, on Night Attack, which is forthcoming. So I don't want to go too far into it, but let me just explain to everybody where I was this weekend. This weekend, I went down to Politicon, Pasadena, California. Me, John, my co-creator on The Contender, Megan Font, our co-partners with The Contender, we all got in 2 different cars and drove on down to Los Angeles. It's about a 5.5 drive from the Bay Area. Happy to go down there. Wound up staying with Andrew Main, and it was super fun. Went down to the Magic Castle on Friday, which is really like, pardon me if I'm using a very, crappy turn of phrase, but it's a bit of a magic trick. Because the Magic Castle, let me explain to you guys what the Magic Castle is, okay? The Magic Castle is simultaneously both a private club for magic nerds and a hip happening place in the increasingly a kitsch-loving world of Los Angeles. Because we are living in a niche society, one in which freshness and an off-kilter idea is almost more valuable than the mass popularity. The fringes have gone mainstream, if you were. And so in this moment in LA, having that one little cool hole-in-the-wall place is cooler than the big, gigantic, mass market version of cool. So if that's the case, the Magic Castle is super hip. It is absolutely a place to be and to be seen. Because if the Magic Castle is nothing else, it is extraordinarily kept. It is very well designed. It is very well, it projects class, right? So you got a bunch of young, beautiful LA people, man. We're talking like Botoxed old ladies. We're talking about svelte young starlets. We're talking about square-jawed, lantern-headed leading men. Oh my good God, it's like a parade of the beautiful people. And they all come down to talk to people that might be the nerdiest, most socially maladjusted set in history. And I say that with full admiration. I mean, listen, so many of my best friends are magicians. I worked covering magic for about 8 years. I am well aware of the ups and downs of that group, of their pros and cons. And it is always something that blows my mind. And it was something that really, really, really amazed me when I was there again, to realize that, like, all the people that, like, all right, here's how nerdy magic is. Let me lay this out for you. Magicians will find a way to feel awkward and turn their backs on other people at a magic convention. Seriously, at a convention wherein they are the only attendees and everybody is there so they can talk about the one thing that they love. It is not but a few seconds in when you will find 2 magicians or 3 magicians on the floor just with their backs faced to everybody. Their big, turtle shell, spiky turtle shells in the back, rejecting any other advances, right? So we go to the Magic Castle. We see some good stuff, some not so good stuff. It's fine. I very much highly recommend that we do it. Yeah, if you have the means, I highly recommend it. Head on down there. Go ahead and check out this week, actually. If you're in Los Angeles, go to the Magic Castle this week if you can, because there's a lot of really, really, really great people there. So that's fun. We're having a fun little team building thing, and the next thing you know, we go to this Politicon. Politicon is the first ever, it is the first ever, what they refer to themselves as the Coachella of politics. I don't quite understand why they would call themselves the Coachella of politics. Because, it's not like, it's really not as if there is anything particularly special about the fact that there is this thing, right? It's just like any other con. It's like any other Comic-Con, any other Dragon Con, any other, the Gen Con, any of these big events wherein people in their field come and talk and spread the word, right? However, they want to brand it as something hipper. If you're not yet catching on a theme here, Los Angeles is a place wherein the cool is the currency. So the Magic Castle kind of lucks into it. Politicon tries to manufacture it. We set up a big contender booth. Now I'm going to stop. I'm not going to bore you guys with the ins and outs on exactly how we ran a booth, except to say this. None of us had run a convention booth before. And much like none of us have ever run a small business of this magnitude before, there was a lot of learning curve issues, including our creativity kind of getting the better of us. We got this beautiful idea, man. We're like, oh, you want to know what? We're going to set everything up so you'll be able to sit down and debate a sock puppet presidential candidate of your choice. Yeah. So you're going to be able to sit down. You're going to be pick up from 8 different sock puppets. Bill Clinton, Hillary Clinton, Ronald Reagan, John McCain, Donald Trump, a few more. I can't remember. Richard Nixon, Bernie Sanders. You're going to be able to pick from them. It's going to be great. We had literal discussions of how we would manage the line because obviously it would be the hit of the con. People would be like, oh, you want to go see Vincente Fox? No. I need to get in line to debate Puppet John McCain. I think you can probably tell by the way I'm foreshadowing this. That did not happen. Not happening. Not a thing. We did not have a line. In fact, we realized very, very quickly that it was a bit of a big ask for people to come up, hear about our game, and then immediately want to play the game in front of a camera and lights while somebody had a puppet in their hand talking to them. It was a bit of a daunting task. So at that point, we kind of realized, okay, we got to reshuffle. We also had to reshuffle our pricing. It just was not happening for us. We soldiered through, though. We wound up selling pretty well. Got some good sleep on Saturday, came right back, did it again Sunday. And at which point, I had a few choices. Number one, I had an opportunity to go to watch a Game of Thrones watch party in Los Angeles, or I could get back to the Bay. That, again, starting at like 7 o'clock, is a 5.5-hour drive. Decide you want to know what? That's what we're doing. That's what we're doing. We're going to get in the car, all aboard, for the night train. We are going full lock, stock, and barrel. We're going to get back there by 1:30 in the morning, but you want to know what? It's going to be worth it. Now, it's about at that point that we begin to get word on the results of the podcast awards. The Podcast Awards, an institution set up 10 years ago by a man named Todd Cochran. First time I ever heard of the Podcast Awards was because I was a listener to the fantasy-focused football podcast on ESPN with, at that point, Matthew Berry and Nate Ravitz. Nate Ravitz? No, the other Nate. There was a Nate and a Pod Vader. They went hard with these podcast awards. They were a daily podcast. They told people to vote every single day to verify their vote. They took it seriously, and they won awards. I like the idea of a podcast award. It's got a great name. I like the idea that other podcasters that I respect took it seriously. I like the fact that they were ruthless in their efficiency. And so we come to last year. Last year, our fans, and by fans I mean I hate the word fans. Our community reminded us that we should submit. Our community, most specifically T2T2, had the idea that we should vote a slate. We should not vote for each podcast individually, that we would stand a better chance against larger podcasts if we just recommended all of our friends that wound up getting nominated. Cool. Thought that was a good idea. And so that's what we did. That's what we did. We went and created a slate that everybody could go vote on. And being the Estonian boy wonder that he is, T2T2 created a little bookmarklet that would show you, if you wanted, to each different show that you could click on and then verify your vote accordingly. Now, there are a few things that I want to point out here because I believe that they bear mentioning as we go further into this story. Number one, this site was envisioned and created by somebody not in the running for a podcast award. Number two, it had already been run and executed last year. Flash forward to yesterday evening. Yesterday evening, all of a sudden, I start getting fun little tweets. Congratulations, they say. Congratulations. Politics, politics, politics is the winner in the government category. Awesome. That show is a huge, 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 exciting thing for me. I love doing it. It has opened up a lot of really rad doors, which I'm very excited about. I am excited that it's found a following that is equal to this, the flagship show that it spun out from. So that's thrilling for me. Very excited. They called me on the podcast Robert Jason Young. Fine. It's all right. I don't think that any of my names are particularly confusing. Justin Robert Young, very easy, very milquetoast kind of names. However, when you put the three of them together, apparently it's some kind of mind eraser because it goes wrong more than I think it should. And then as we're unloading from the booth at Politicon, more good news. JuRY has won. Oh, man, super excited. I'm just getting this news secondhand. And as we unload from a big 12-hour workday, I could not be more on cloud nine. Put together a few cursory little tweets thanking everybody, and I let them know that my name is Justin Robert Young, and I am a two-time podcast award winner for my solo shows. We also wound up winning with weird things as well, so technically, I brought home 3 trophies. Now, we're going to get to the trophy thing in a bit. But I wound up getting to Andrews. I pack up all my stuff that I had left there, and we're about to get on the road when scandal breaks. Oh, wait, hold on. Scandal? What could possibly have happened? I mean, we just we did the thing. No, wait a minute. All of a sudden, big blaring headlines. He is only a siren gif away from a Drudge front page. Scandal has stopped the podcast awards. A group of shows used an illegal off-site voting method. And I look at that as I'm reading it, and I'm like, for shame on those people that used an illegal off-site voting method. Burn them! Burn the witch! Burn the witch! Till I realized that smell of sulfur was the flames below us, because right there in that headline was hat.t2t2.eu, the site that we use for ours. And it is that point that I realize that we are that we have a problem. We have a issue as far as our as far as this goes. You know, it's going to be a problem. Also, for everybody watching live, just do me a favor and spam the chat for a little bit because we gotta get everybody down. I just switched. We're recording this while Cord Killers is going on, so we need to switch chat rooms so things are not a problem. Okay, thank you. Keep spamming. Eventually, everybody's gonna see what their stuff is. Okay, cool. So now, what are we to do? We've been accused of cheating. Now, I started this podcast by saying that there are two sides, comedy and tragedy, right? Comedy and tragedy, comedy and tragedy. And I would be a liar if I was telling you that I believed when we were initially accused for cheating that it was anything other than a comedy. Because we knew what we were doing. We very literally, and by the way, by we, I mean the community. Because I didn't do anything. None of the other shows did anything. T2T2 set up the website, and everything else was self-organized. But knowing T2T2, he was very, very clear about staying within the rules. Because again, we are a group of shows that wants to support each other and wants to use all of our combined fandom to its maximum leverage. If we had gotten the word out in other different ways, I don't know whether or not that would be controversial, but we certainly did not find it controversial enough, hat.t2t2.eu, either last year or this year, to not mention it on the podcast as a way to send people to the site. When T2T2 set up the site, I helped facilitate communication with the other shows that were involved because it was a good thing for us. It's a good thing for them. It's a great way for us to all get the word out. And by the way, not only for the podcast awards, but to just expand our audiences, right? To give a chance for somebody who listens to this show on Politics, a reason to listen to Joe and Meg's musical adventure. For people who listen to a show like Night Attack, to listen to Diary of a Trans Woman. For somebody who watches a show like Scam School, to listen to The Angry Chicken. It's a way for us to discover and support. Or so I thought. Because while I strapped into my 07 Toyota Matrix and I made my way northward through the Golden State, as dusk settled, oh boy, the firefight, it started. Man, I could have sworn when I looked out into the distance of the California foothills and went into the Central Valley, I could see sparks on the horizon. It was the gunfire being shot on Twitter between some salty people that were very upset that they lost Todd Cochran, the major domo of the podcast awards, and our group. Now, eventually what happens is he looks into everything and determines that we did not break any rules. I don't think it would be exaggerating to say that I still don't think he's particularly happy about the entire process, and that he, that, I don't know, who knows whether or not the Podcast Awards continues to happen, or if there will be another rule that would preclude us from doing something. And by us, again, I mean the Diamond Club community, or should I say, the Diamond Group. Ba-da-ba-dam. The Diamond Group is what he started calling it. The Diamond Group. The Diamond Group organized. The Diamond Group used technological advantages that were not available to the other shows. The Diamond Group should have funded the rebuilding of the website if they love the Podcast Awards so much. Now, again, I hate to keep hitting on this, but this is all comedy for me. You know, The podcast awards are something that we care enough about to mobilize people for, but it really is a community event. It's fun because we're doing it together. If they were to proverbially set my country music award on fire, I would not be terribly upset. In fact, it might have been cooler if we did get banned for life. And as things unfolded and wound up settling down, I wound up kind of just coming to peace with the fact that, no need to kick around the salt. Like, some people are upset. We're not. That's fine. At the end of the day, we are very lucky that we are on one side and not the other. But just as I was about to go to sleep, just as I was about to lay my sweet head down on my own bed in Oakland, I took a look at Facebook. And friends, I will tell you, I was dismayed. Dismayed, I tell you. Because, there's a cost to this that I did not calculate. I don't care whether or not, man, I got a podcast award. I don't care whether or not I get another one. Because, by the way, I'm not going to pay the $300 that he wants for the new podcast award. I'll probably just replicate this one and put my name on it and put it on my mantle and call it a day. But that's not the case for everybody. And when I was on Facebook, I was tagged in a few threads, a few posts about this. One of them featured a very, very distraught listener to this show, Abby, who does the podcast Diary of a Trans Woman. You might remember Abby. Abby was one of the people who did, or she was the one person that did the little story at my live show at Nerdtacular last year, almost a year ago. If you haven't picked up on the context clues, Abby is, transitioning into a new phase of her life. The podcast that she does, again, is a personal exploration through that process. So for me, somebody wants to call me a fraud and a scamster and all sorts of other names. That's fine, man. I'm sure it'll all blow over. In fact, I might as well just head down to the Winchester and have a pint so the previous action can just happen while I sit there. But it really annoyed me to see both Abby and specifically and then Joss of the morning stream who let loose a flurry of rage arrows, I think very reasonably though, on her Twitter, about some of the language used in the process from the podcast awards. That insinuations that there was cheating, insinuations that there was a scam, insinuations that it was a fraud, insinuations that these shows should not be recognized, but they were anyway because of ill-gotten gains. Now, here's where that's a problem. If it is another contestant saying it, whatever. He lost. He's entitled to his opinion, his or her opinion. They can say whatever they want. When it's the organizer of the awards, it's hard to let that one out of the bottle, man, because it can't come back in. When you swing that barn door open and that Clydesdale trots out, man, it ain't getting back. So you've got some people here for which working very, very hard to get this award was a priority for them. Not only a priority, but a huge reward for work well done, for an audience well organized, for talent well revealed. And what do you get? You get somebody saying, well, you cheated. Oh, sorry, you didn't cheat technically, but still, we're going to have to ban you or change the rules next time because you didn't do it the right way. And it was at that point that I felt for the first time that this was something more than the funniest thing I'd ever read. Because before, man, I found it pretty funny. I was texting everybody pictures of OJ playing golf saying, well, we swear we will find the real cheaters. People are saying in the chat room, not insinuations, he actually said those things. Yeah, no, I mean, I'm saying that he is making accusations, not insinuations. I got my vocabulary wrong. And I guess now Todd is saying on Facebook that he may reveal the runners-up to the categories that we won. And, like, it's his awards, right? But I will just say this to him, to Todd, that we're not your problem. I mean, like, you might think we're your problem. We're not your problem. You might think that us not. No. You have a larger problem, and we know it. You have a much more insidious problem, and we have proof. You have a much harder to solve problem, and we know it because we have cold, hard facts to prove it. This institution matters as much as people care about it. Awards are kind of like Tinkerbell. You know, if you do believe in fairies, then they are more powerful. If you do not, then they die a slow death. For whatever reason, the Podcast Awards has been dead set on chasing away enthusiasm. I mentioned before that I first heard about the Podcast Awards because of the Fantasy Focused Football Podcast. That is a podcast that consistently ranks in the top either 50 to 25 of podcasts in general. It is very often in the top 10 when fantasy football season rolls around. It's very, very well done. And the talent that has, been on there has gone on to larger acclaim because of the quality of the program and the reach of the audience. They're not allowed to run in the Podcast Awards anymore because they won too much. This year, rules were put in that you can never win an award 2 years in a row. That's why Night Attack was out of it. That's why JuRY was in the award for mature podcast. Enthusiasm keeps being stripped out. You keep taking away opportunities for larger fan bases to battle over this prestigious award. If the Podcast Awards were won correctly, we would never have a chance. And that's fine. Because if one of us won, we'd be very excited and we'd celebrate like a bunch of Ewoks on Endor. When we have a slate that is being voted on, we are not swamping out other shows. We are effectively setting a floor. Meaning that if a larger podcast than any one of us decides to go hard, if the Fantasy Focused Football Podcast decided to go hard for the award, we'd lose. We don't have that kind of reach. But if they don't, we're going to have that floor there. So us winning the awards is not a sign that we are absolutely insanely dominant. Sure, we organize as best we can, but man, we're the 300. We're not the larger army. Right? We're just a well-organized, smaller group that is doing the best we can with spit, bubble gum, and duct tape. And when we win, When the 300 can sack Athens, you got a problem. And it's worse than that. Because T2T2 sees the stats on what comes in through his site. People that are getting the link through the podcast awards from his site. People that are downloading the bookmarklet for his site. People that are activating the bookmarklet to go vote on the podcast awards. And the traffic year on year from last year to this one was down. We didn't have as many people vote this year like we did last year. And yet, by awards, people that were on our slate did better. So what I would ask Todd, if I was being honest, and you know me, like Andre 3000, just being honest. Go ahead and look at your total votes year on year. Put them into one of them there Google graphs, right? You know, you could do it any number of ways, right? You know, you could do a bar graph, right? But I would probably suggest a line graph, right? I would suggest one of those, just dots on a plane. Because if I were going to make a wild guess, I would say that year on year, your votes are down. Why are your votes down? Why are people who are putting in less effort winning more? I think it's because you booted out a lot of people. They can't run. If everybody that was still super excited about it was still able to push their audience for it, man, I think they'd still be winning. Which gets to a bit of a philosophical point, and I will leave you guys with this. Very often we see inequality in the world, and we say, let's lower the bar, right? Let's take away the top so the lesser can be closer to the top. Now, everything isn't everything, and there are a million different ways to skin a cat. But if I were running the podcast awards and I had a brontosaurus running around dominating anything it ran into, my goal would not be to kill the brontosaurus. It would be to bring in a bigger brontosaurus. It would be to reach out to other larger podcasts and say, hey, look, this large podcast is winning. Would you like to win the award that they're winning? Because I think that would be more exciting. And by the way, it'd be more exciting for us as the little guy, because we would have to be very, very, very careful about what kind of stuff we were putting in there. We would want to make sure that we had a concerted effort to support the shows that we did. It would be more intense, more exciting, more successful. But hell, what do I know? I'm just here, #T-Lizard. We will have ourselves a mailbag episode a little bit later this week. Otherwise, if you would like to email the show, justinrobertyoung@gmail.com is my email. Go ahead and buy stickers or DIAF, thecontender.us, and support us at patreon.com/JURY. Until next time, my name is Justin Robert Young, telling you, as always, please don't.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.
Wait, hold on. We can do that better. Hold on. Wait a minute.
Diamond
Group.
Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.